Hey friends, what's up? Ash here with Gents. Hope that you're doing well. Time for another super cheap fragrance review. It's another fragrance from the house of Lattafa. This one's been out for a minute. I think it came out 2018, at least according to Fragrantica, which is not always the most accurate place to go for information, but we're gonna roll with it for now. It's a fragrance that I am not gonna be able to pronounce correctly, so my apologies for that. Qaa'ed. Yeah, I don't know, Qaa'ed. Yeah, this right here you can pick up for under $20 on the good old entry nets. So it's one of those cheapies that you would essentially think of as a clearance bin type buy. One of those fragrances that you don't necessarily have to base a purchase around. You can just toss it into your cart and roll with it because it doesn't really cost all that much. So this one I had seen popping up on bestseller tabs on fragrance stores, fragrance discounters, and I myself hadn't actually heard of it. And I was like, well, let's go ahead and pick it up, see if it's any good and see what it's a clone of. Because we know Lattafa, they make clones. So ultimately I picked this up from Fragrance Buy as part of one of my cheapie hauls that I made from the website. And today I'm gonna share with you guys what I think about this one, how the presentation looks in closer detail, and let you know what I think it's a clone of. So let's jump into it and let's check this one out. So this is a fragrance that you're gonna be looking at around that $20 range, US dollars. Not very expensive at all. Let's go ahead and check out the presentation and see what you get for that money. So here we have the box, and for one of the cheaper fragrances from the house, it's actually really nice, really well done. You have the name of the house, name of the fragrance right there on the front. Actually, the name of the fragrance twice. On the top, you have the Lattafa logo, and on the back of the box, you have the little Lattafa certificate of authenticity. And it has a really nice leathery feel to it, but I don't imagine this is real leather. I would think this is pleather, but it does have a nice soft touch to it. Sort of like you would expect to find in some nicer cars where it has like a soft leathery touch to it. Then on the bottom of the box, you have the name of the fragrance, the size, the concentration, the ingredients, and your barcode. And the batch code is actually printed in ink on the bottom right here of the box, and frankly, I can't really read it, but it's there. So the box opens up like so, and then your bottle sits in there like this. So here we have the bottle. It is nice and heavy, very gold, as you can see. You have the name of the fragrance on the front there. You have Lattafa on top of the cap. And then around the atomizer, it says Eau de Parfum, natural spray, and has the size as well. On the bottom, you have a sticker, very plain. I mean, I think it does look kind of cheap, the bottle itself, but for the price, it's not bad. And let's go ahead and blast a couple sprays for you guys so you can check out the atomizer. Here we go. Yeah, I don't really like the atomizer a whole lot. It's one of those cheaper ones. I mean, it works. It works. It does spray out, you know, decent amount of fragrance, but it just feels kind of cheap when you press it down. But again, it is a cheap fragrance, so that's nitpicking at the end of the day. So how does this smell when you spray it on? Well, it is very masculine leaning, so it's not one of those clone fragrances or fragrances in general that's unisex leaning one way or the other. I think it has a very strong masculine lean to it. Quite woody when you spray it on. Also a bit smoky to me, you know, it has kind of an incensey feel to it, even though I'm not sure if incense is an official note in the fragrance or not, but it definitely does have an incense feel as soon as you spray it on. So you're gonna get this spicy blast in the opening. You're gonna get those woods, that incense, cinnamon, cardamom, all coming through. Little saffron as it dries down. Very intense when you first spray it on. It's got a big punch to it. It is one of those fragrances that has a decided Middle Eastern flair to it. So it is very much a Middle Eastern style fragrance. You can tell that right away. So if you're not a big fan of Middle Eastern fragrances, you may not like it. But if you do like Middle Eastern fragrances, it's probably gonna be right up your alley. It's got an underlying vanilla sweetness that helps round everything off, and that vanilla sweetness stays there pretty much the entirety of the fragrance from the opening into the dry down, though in the opening it's not quite as easily picked up or pronounced, mainly because you're gonna get walloped by all those spices, the woods, and that smoky incense when you first spray it. Now, as you head through the mid, you pick up a little bit more saffron as the cardamom and the cinnamon kind of fades back. So you still have spiciness, but it kind of swaps what spiciness you're really going to be focusing on. As it dries also, that woodiness is going to stick around and become even more the focal point of the fragrance. Oud and cedar and sandalwood notes. And even though oud is one of the more prominent woody accords that's in the fragrance. Obviously, the oud does not come across like a really natural smelling oud. It doesn't come across either as a very funky or medicinal oud though. So it's quite wearable. And in fact, I'd say a lot of people that wear this may just think of it as very woody without being able to necessarily point as to which particular wood they're smelling. Just kind of a woody accord, a mix of these notes. And although I did say it's not really medicinal, I mean that in like a full force kind of way. If you really seek it out, you can pick up like little hints of a medicinal dark woodiness to the fragrance. So I suppose in that aspect, if you approach it that way, think about it that way, then the oud would be the most noticeable of the wood notes. Now, as far as this being a straight up one-to-one clone, I think the closest fragrance, at least that I own, that I would say this is a clone of would be this one, the Issey Polaris from Issey Miyake. These are both doing similar things, similar vibes, and if I had to place money and say, well, what is this a clone of? This would be my choice. This is what I'd be rolling with. I have seen other people compare it to Interlude from Amouage. I don't really think it's close enough to that at all. The openings are different. The mid, the dry down, everything is different. I mean, this is an incensey, woodsy fragrance. So in that aspect, yeah, similarities to Interlude make sense. But then in the actual execution of the fragrance, this is something different. In terms of that vanilla, woody, slightly ambery, oudy with a touch of leather vibe to it though, both of these have that in common because there is also leather in this one in the base. It's just not quite as prominent as the woods are. So you could think of this as a hyper affordable alternative to Polaris. And Polaris is a great fragrance, like frankly, most cool weather Issey Miyake fragrances are. I mean, they really crush those. Awesome quality. They smell fantastic, dark, mysterious, sexy, high quality. Issey Miyake has some great cool weather scents. The issue with that, of course, is that they are not always easy to find. They sell out a lot, and when they are available at discounters, they're typically not discounted all that much. So if you really like Polaris, or you've been having trouble finding Polaris, or you don't want to pay the money for Polaris, any of those things, then check this one out because it'd be a great alternative to this scent for way less. I guess next, let's talk about when you would wear this fragrance. What seasons, daytime, nighttime, all that stuff, and the performance. So it should be fairly obvious with this smelling quite similar to Polaris, and then having this golden colored bottle with a very dark juice on the inside of the bottle. Hate calling it that, juice. But fall and winter time, that's when this is going to work best. Doesn't come across like a springtime or summertime fragrance at all, and it does lean more toward nighttime use than daytime use. In terms of performance, very good. This is an eau de parfum concentration, and it does last off your skin like it is one. So you're looking at above average longevity and above average projection with this scent. The only thing that I would say is that the atomizer is a little bit dinky, so just make sure that you get enough of it on, because it's one of those atomizers that I just don't have great confidence in. When I spray it, it does kind of a puff. Like I said, when I did show you how it works, I mean, it works decently enough. It's not like it's shooting out a jet stream or something like that. It's just not a very strong atomizer. So it might be doing kind of a light mist, and you need to make sure that you get yourself amply doused, at least with how much you want to be wearing. Quality is surprisingly high, even though this is a very inexpensive Lattafa fragrance. When you spray it on, you don't get hit with that alcohol kind of smell that some inexpensive clones have, even some from Lattafa. There are some that I've talked about here recently where when you first spray them on, you get a little bit of a ethanol rubbing alcohol kind of smell to it. It dissipates pretty quickly typically, but that does not happen here. Instead, that is traded for a slightly aggressive opening. So do keep that in mind when you first spray this on and you get hit, as I said a couple of times now, with the woodiness, the spices, and the smoke and all that stuff. It can be a little bit overwhelming for the first 2-3 minutes or so. It's pretty aggressive. I wouldn't necessarily call it harsh, but it definitely is more in your face. And as it settles down and smooths out, all those rough edges fade away. And ultimately, that very first initial blast, the first 2-3 minutes, in the grand scheme of things, even if it did have kind of a rubbing alcohol smell, it doesn't matter too much, because how many people are going to be right up on you as you spray it on, instantly judging your fragrance? Not too many. Unless, I guess, of course, you're spraying it on in front of your wife and you immediately, or your significant other, and you immediately put your arm or neck or wherever right up into their nose and go like, smell it now. Tell me how it smells. Then you might have an issue. So there we go. Another Lattafa in the books and another really solid one. Not a clone of a fragrance that's maybe as in high demand from the general public. This is just kind of one of those random, weird one-offs of a fragrance that really is mainly just loved by people that are really into fragrances, because most people don't really know about Issey Polaris, but a lot of you out there do, of course. So this isn't your more typical Aventus, Baccarat Rouge 540, or even Interlude clone. Instead, just kind of a random Issey Miyake, but a darn good one, so I'm here for it. So there we go, a cheapy Lattafa, another one in the books. Actually, I placed a couple orders like 2 nights ago. And in those orders, I mean, it was kind of a smorgasbord of stuff that I placed orders for. I got niche stuff coming, designer stuff coming, and also like 3 or 4 Lattafas that I've not smelled, because I want to see if any more of those are any good or if any are super crap. So I'll let you know. If they're really good, I'll feature them. If they're really bad, I'll feature them. If they're just kind of meh, then I might not. All right, that's gonna do it for me. I've got this linked in the description in case you wanna check it out. Thank you guys for hanging with me today. Thanks for your support. Stay safe out there. See you tomorrow with another fragrance video. See you guys later.